Welcome to the Experience Oldsmar with the Mayor podcast. I'm your host, Mayor Dan Saracki, broadcasting live from the top of the bay in beautiful downtown Oldsmar at the Ransom Eli Olds building. It's Earth Day, so get out, plant a tree, pick up some litter, and happy birthday to my great uncle Stanley. He was a great advocate for saving the planet, saving our fresh water with President Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson. But with that, I have a special guest here today. I'm really excited to introduce County Commissioner Brian Scott. Welcome.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to have you here in the city of Oldsmar. Thank you so much for coming out. We're going to get started. I guess you grew up right here in Pinellas County. Is that true?
Well, for most of it, my family relocated from upstate New York, and I know you're a fellow recovering New Yorker, just like I am, in the early 80s, and I've been here since 1982. So I was, 14 when we moved down here. So I completed my last 3 years of high school here in Pinellas County.
Seminole High School?
Seminole High School, 1986.
So how was it back then compared to it is today?
So a lot different. The growth has been tremendous. The house that my mom and dad lived in for 15 years in Seminole, and the house that my wife and I lived in for 15 years in Seminole didn't even exist in 1986. It was just nothing but orange groves. So, and I remember back then, you would drive up and down US 19, and people would have a bumper sticker that said, "Pray for me, I drive on 19." And I don't think that's really changed. That part of it's probably stayed the same, but there's a whole lot more overpasses on 19 now than what there was back. Everything back then was that great intersection.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember when I moved to Oldsmar in 95, Tampa Road was just 2 lanes.
Right.
It was nothing here. Orange groves, oak trees.
I mean, back in the, in the late 80s, in the mid to late 80s, our business was we ran shuttle service to the dog track and the horse track. So I used to come up here to Tampa Bay Downs all the time. So I spent a lot of time up here during that time, and this area has changed tremendously since then.
So let's go.
Tampa Bay Downs was about the only thing that was out there.
Let's go right back to high school real quick. So it had to be pretty neat growing up here in high school. Was there, just the whole atmosphere being a high school student? Just share a little bit with us.
So I ran track and cross country in high school, and as a transplant from upstate New York coming down here, it was the huge culture shock. The high schools, the culture of high school up there is just so different than it is down here. Here you have open air schools, which was something that was totally foreign to me. And then the activities that you do, like in upstate New York, are just so different, the recreational activities, than what you do down here. So it was actually probably really good for me from a health standpoint, because I was kind of a chunky kid. And I moved down here and got into running track and cross country. And a kid that I met my first day in high school convinced me to go out and do that. And that created a lifelong love of running. So it was a positive development, even though I didn't want to move down here, because you left all your friends when you're 14 years old. But looking back on it, it was the best thing.
That's wonderful. And you also went to college, St. Petersburg?
Yeah, I went it was St. PJC. Back in the day. But yes, I did get a degree from St. PJC, and then I took business classes at USF's Bayboro campus.
And things have changed since then, too, I bet.
They have. They have, a lot.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your business. You're an owner and president of Escott Bus Lines and the president of Trax Insurance. How does working in the private sector prepare you for your political role today?
So I always felt the need to be involved in something greater, bigger than my day-to-day bus world. And the bus business is one of those things where you work 80 hours Monday through Friday just so you can get up at 4 a.m. on the weekends to go dispatch buses and take care of all of the things that happen on the weekend, which is your busiest time. But I always felt I needed to be involved in something bigger than that. So early on in my career, I got involved in what I say industry politics. So I volunteered for the board of directors of the Florida Motor Coach Association. And then I became president of that organization. And then I was elected to the board of directors of the United Motor Coach Association, which is the association that represents my industry in Washington, D.C. And I was chairman of that organization. And then I moved on to the International Motor Coach Group. and the Global Passenger Network, and then Trax Insurance Limited. And after I had pretty much exhausted every leadership position there was to have in the industry, I wanted to take that energy and invest it in my community, a community that's been very good to my family and I. So I started just looking for volunteer opportunities, and a position became available on the local coordinating board for the transportation disadvantaged. So I was appointed to that committee by, which is a subcommittee of Forward Pinellas. So I was appointed by the Forward Pinellas board to that committee in 2010, and I still volunteer and serve on that today. And then that just led to the PSTA board of directors, and then the Citizens Advisory Committee for Forward Pinellas. And then I volunteered also on the Parks and Conservation Resources Board for the county.
Wonderful.
So
sounds like you've been busy.
I have been.
You have served in the various leadership roles within the passenger ground transportation industry. Can you tell us about some of these and how these associations assisted you in your business development?
So you being involved in something that's bigger than your day-to-day business just gives you perspective. Mm-hmm. And it also helps you in your just personal and professional growth. And I learned early on in the bus industry, which is a tough industry to be in, is the companies that were really good, really successful, surrounded themselves with successful people. So I did the same thing. And I thought, by being on these boards, I'm learning so much from all of these people that have just been so tremendously successful in my industry. So I just went and did that and contributed and just was like a sponge and just learned as much as I could.
Well, I want a backbone on that because we also work together on the PSTA board of directors, yep. And we work together on the finance committee for PSTA.
Correct.
And I remember when you were elected in 2022, I was excited because of your experience in the bus industry. When I got on PSTA, I really knew nothing about Pinellas County and the bus. And when you joined the board, I have learned a lot from you already, and that's why I'm really excited about that opportunity for us to work together at PSTA. Because I think you bring a really different type of positive view from your experience in your employment that comes to PSTA. And I just wanted to bring that up. I really appreciate it. I think you like it too, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. You missed a really amazing finance committee meeting last week. You would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, I know. I did review the agenda in advance of that and just kind of, put some comments out that everything looked okay to it. But I was sad that I missed that, but I had a TDC meeting conflict. So
I got your email. Well, thank you. Okay, so now you represent District 2 for Pinellas County. What incorporated areas and municipalities do you represent?
All 24 of them. So basically, it's an at-large seat. So it's the entire county from Tarpon Springs to Tierra Verde and everything in between.
And Oldsmar.
And Oldsmar.
Well, then I'm really glad you're here today. Good. So now I know who to call.
That's right.
So you have to deal with some of these situations in East Lake Woodlands when they call me and I say, you have to call the county commission?
Yeah. I get those emails.
You get them all. Okay.
Those emails, yeah. And so does Commissioner Eggers. And yeah.
That's an interesting, some of those emails are very interesting and I give you a lot of credit.
They are very interesting.
Right? I'm like, I don't, I'm not, that's not Oldsmar, it's the county commission. Well, wonderful. What type of work or situation led you to consider entering to become county commissioner of the Pinellas County?
After volunteering my time for over a decade on all of those various boards, I felt like I had accomplished a tremendous amount as a volunteer. But if you want to make a real difference, I thought the next step is putting your name on a ballot. So I did.
And it worked. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So excited for you. You serve as vice chair of the Board of County Commissioners and on specific topics for Pinellas County. Can you share what a few of those are?
So the other boards and committees?
Yes.
So I had to write them down because I lose track. PSTA, so Pinellas Sun Coast Transit Authority, Forward Pinellas, which is our metropolitan planning organization, Tampa Bay Water, which is very interesting because that manages our water resources for the entire region, Historic Preservation, Business Technology Services, which is the IT department for the county, the Value Adjustment Board, the Local Coordinating Board for the Transportation Disadvantaged, and the Tourist Development Council.
Very busy. So that's why you missed the meeting. You're on
That's what I'm missing.
Very good. Well, anyways, let's talk about some hot topics that are going on right now. There is some discussion taking place about a full rollback on millage rates. What does that entail? Now, you know, Oldsmar is 4.05. It's been that way for many, many years. Give me an update on that.
So we're having kind of early budget discussions right now at the county. And in June, we'll start getting our departmental presentations of their budget. Property values last year rose about 12%, and the county took advantage of all of that 12%, as a lot of taxing authorities did. This year, the projection is about 6% increase in property value. The direction that we've given the county administrator is to shoot for half of that increase, so basically 3%, to allow us some room for at least a partial rollback. And really that's just because the inflationary pressures that everybody are under, we just want to be able to try to provide some relief.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we'll get to, I would love to get to a full rollback, but the inflationary pressures are so great, I just don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, we're certainly going to try.
So
but,
when you, let's, for our listeners, the full rollback, is that like 1 point off or point?
Well, it's gonna depend basically on the budget. Last year, a full rollback, I can't remember what the actual point, decimal movement was on it, but we needed $56 million for a full rollback. This year, and that was for a $3.8 billion budget. This year, it all depends on where that final budget number comes in at as to what the rollback will be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, let's keep me updated on that when I see you at PSTA.
Okay.
All right. One other really hot topic is, of course, I'm going to the game tonight, the Tampa Bay Rays Hines historic gas plant partnership deal. That's a very hot topic. Can you provide us with an overview on its status?
So the city of St. Petersburg, what they call it is their committee of the whole, which is basically a work session for their full city council. They have a meeting May 9th and then a meeting May 23rd, where they're going to discuss, one day they're going to discuss the stadium deal, and then the next day the next meeting they're going to discuss the redevelopment plan. So depending on the outcome of that, assuming all of that is positive, then St. Pete City Council will most likely take that up for a vote, I would say, in June. And then the county commission will have a work session on that probably in late June or early July, I would think, and then probably take that up for a vote in July or perhaps August would be my sense of the time frame.
That's really an exciting project. I think that's going to be great for the economy and, I mean, just the whole well-being of the Tampa Bay Rays and that whole area down there. It's going to be a wonderful improvement for the stadium in that area.
Yeah, I think it will be, and it's just getting through the details and getting through all the negotiations and just make sure it's fair for everybody.
Exactly. So there's two last hot topics. Let's talk about beach renourishment. Very hot topic. We know what happened down in Fort Myers Beach last year and that year before, and we're coming right into hurricane season in 2 months. So what do you think about that?
So the county recently completed emergency renourishment or emergency restoration, probably I'll call it that, and we spent $30 million to do that. So that basically replaced what got washed away from last year's hurricane season, and then that storm that we early in the winter, we got that big storm that kind of moved through. So right now we're still in an impasse with the Army Corps of Engineers. We did get a little bit of light perhaps at the end of the tunnel that maybe they're softening their position on their permanent easements, but we're not really waiting for that. We're in full design phase right now for what the full scope of beach renourishment. So design and permitting, is that taking place as we speak? The time frame on that is about 1.5 years. So probably late in 25 is when we will start that project. Hopefully we have the Army Corps at our side, but if they don't, we're going to move forward with it anyways because it has to be done.
Good old Army Corps of Engineers.
Right.
Yeah, that needs to be done, and And the beach communities deserve those beaches to be there for the next generations, for the future.
Well, it drives our economy.
Absolutely.
We can't screw it up.
Right. Just a short story. I was over in Daytona Beach for a conference last year. That beach is just gone. When I was
really?
It's going away quick. The water was hitting the hotels and
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's a shame. So I'm hoping they're doing something over there on that coast. Last hot topic we're going to talk about, big. It's been going on since I've been elected in 2015. The city council, short-term rentals.
Yep.
Tell us about your workshop.
So we had a workshop last Thursday on short-term rentals. That is the number one complaint that my office gets, is what are you going to do about the short-term rental that is destroying the fabric of my neighborhood? And I feel the pain because I have 3 of them in my neighborhood, and one of them is two doors down from me. So the county commission is looking at what our options are for updating our ordinances. Some of that depends on whether the governor signs SB 280 or not. But regardless, we are looking at beefing up, about creating a registration process, and then beefing up code enforcement, because it's really code enforcement that really has to enforce those rules. It's, the sheriff has bigger fish to fry than dealing with all these noise complaints. So that's kind of what we're looking at is a registration process, potentially an inspection process at least once at the initial point of registration, because we know there's been so many of these companies that will come in and they will buy a house, and then they will increase the number of bedrooms inside, and they do the work without a permit. And then they advertise that it sleeps 18, 20, 22. And right now, maximum occupancy is 10. So that's a problem. So those are the things that we're looking at, is a registration process, an inspection process, and then better enforcement. Our hope is to actually have an ordinance update that we can vote on later this year.
Did you, in your workshop, talk about maybe working with Vrbo and Airbnb to negotiate with them on what they're doing when they lease these places or rent them out? Is there a communication somewhere in there that you can work with them on maybe your process of changing your ordinances?
We haven't, not to my knowledge, that has not occurred. Doesn't mean that it hasn't occurred and I'm just not aware of it. But we didn't really talk about that specifically because at the end of the day, it's, so many of these short-term rentals, they're not owned by an individual in your neighborhood who cares about your community. They're owned by corporations that don't live here. So VRBO and Airbnb, they're only going to do so much. I mean, we can't count on them to police this problem.
It's going to be interesting. Let's keep updated on that, you and I, when I see you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I'm very interested in short-term rentals. I'm really very interested because it does help our economy. It brings money into Pinellas County. It helps the bed tax.
It does. There's about, right now, I think about 23,000 short-term rentals in the entire county.
Wow.
And it does produce bed tax revenue, but it also kind of exasperates our affordable housing situation, because that's 23,000 homes that are out of inventory for families to buy. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? We covered everything we needed today. I appreciate your time. Is there anything that you want to share with the people of Oldsmar?
Well, we did cover a lot today. I guess I would just like to close in saying that I appreciate the opportunity to be your county commissioner. It is an honor and a pleasure.
Well, we are glad you are.
Thank you.
We are thankful you're here today, too, in the city of Oldsmar on Earth Day. Thank you, Brian, for being my guest today. To find out a list of podcast segments, visit experienceoldsmar.com. I'm your host, Oldsmar Mayor Dan Saracki. Until next time, I invite you to check out all the wonderful things there are to do here in the city of Oldsmar. Have a great day. Go plant a tree, pick up some litter. Enjoy this beautiful day in Oldsmar. Take care.